Thanks for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the pilot of a Nigerian fighter jet shot down by suspected bandits survives in the country's beleaguered northwest. It's a disturbing apparent evolution in the combat capabilities of local gangs. And the Thales corruption trial of former South African President Jacob Zuma restarts, with the jailed ex-leader appearing on camera from behind bars for the first time. And 7 African countries are named on a list of nations accused of using Israeli spyware to track the movements and conversations of journalists and rights defenders. Morocco denies its intelligence services used the PEGASUS software to survey domestic and foreign critics. But first, Nigeria's Air Force says that gunmen, known locally as bandits, have shot down a fighter jet in northwest Zamfara state. It's a worrying development for a region that's seen gangs ramp up mass kidnappings of school children over the last year. The pilot in Sunday's attacks survived the crash. It comes as bandits have also been accused of ambushing and killing 13 officers in a police unit in Kurara Mota village, also in Zamfara. Samuel Okoye tells us more about the apparent leap in combat capabilities of local gangs.
The Air Force received information that a number of bandits were assembled in the part of Zamfara state, and so they deployed this plane to go there. And according to the version of the Air Force, a number of bandits were killed, and when this plane was returning to base, it was shot down as a result of ground fire. This is quite significant, actually, considering the fact that this class of plane, the Alpha jets, are the main planes being used by the Nigerian military to combat these insurgents. If they have the capability of shooting down one of these planes, it means they can as well shoot down another plane some other time. So it's quite a big booster for these bandits, but at the same time, it has really affected the morale of the Nigerian Air Force.
It really looks like security forces are struggling to respond to the gang's ramped-up offences.
Yes, I mean, if you consider the fact that these 2 incidents happened on the same day, a plane was shot down and then as many as 13 policemen were killed in an ambush. It shows just how far this group of bandits have gone. And the question would be that if we know that these people have been kidnapping, but the question is, if the objective is to kidnap, how come they are acquiring this level of offensive weapons, shooting down planes, killing as many as 13 policemen? It's really, really worrying security-wise. And today people are saying on the internet that these groups, they've transformed from being bandits to actually being terrorists. So it's a serious development. Also take into consideration that these groups are in touch with the jihadists in northeast Nigeria. So if there's a close collaboration between these 2 groups, the bandits in northwest Nigeria and the jihadists in northeast Nigeria, I mean, it's going to be quite difficult for the military to confront them. Even as of now, that it's difficult, but with them acquiring anti-aircraft missile, ambushing policemen, I think the whole thing is gradually getting out of hand.
Samuel Okoye there for us. Now, jailed former South African President Jacob Zuma made a virtual appearance at his corruption trial on Monday. His jailing earlier this month for contempt of court in a separate case sparked fatal riots in parts of the country. At least 215 people died. Zuma is accused of taking bribes from French arms maker Thales over the 1999 $2 billion purchase of fighter jets and military gear. Zuma was deputy president at the time. Thales has also been charged with corruption. Nsepeng Mutema tells us more.
The legal team representing the former President Jacob Zuma was meant to deal with their application to have the state's lead prosecutor recuse himself. Instead, they spent hours pleading for a postponement, saying that it's only fair that Zuma is present when his trial gets underway so that they are able to consult with him. They say that the judge's directive to hear the matter virtually is a violation of the former president's constitutional rights. State prosecutors have opposed the plea for a postponement, saying that it's all a ruse by Zuma to avoid answering corruption charges. They want the case to go ahead, saying that Zuma's defense can consult with him over the phone from where he is. Zuma is currently serving a 15-month prison sentence for a contempt of court in a separate legal matter. The judge said he decided to hold court virtually because of a number of reasons, including the fact that court cases that involve Zuma tend to draw huge crowds. Since the jailing of Zuma, there have been threats on judges circulating in the form of voice notes asking people to attack and kill judges. Zuma faces 18 charges and 783 counts, including fraud, racketeering, tax evasion, and money laundering. All this is in connection to an arms deal dating back to 1999 when he was deputy president. He is said to have received bribes from a French arms company, Thales, which is co-accused, and ensuring that this company was awarded a multi-billion-dollar arms deal by South Africa. I'm Nsepeng Mutema in Johannesburg.
Thanks for that, Mutema. Now, at least 7 countries from Africa have been implicated in the uproar over the use of Israeli-made spyware. NSO's PEGASUS software has been used to surveil activists, journalists and opposition leaders around the world. The revelations follow an investigation by several news outlets, including The Guardian, The Washington Post and Le Monde. Algeria, DR Congo, Egypt, Morocco, Uganda, Rwanda and Togo have all been accused of using oppressive technology which allows phones to be infiltrated and tracked. Morocco's denied collecting data for use against its critics. Nicolas Chemin from our Africa desk tells us more.
According to the reports, they've used it probably the most, but Morocco is firmly denying these reports. But newspapers like Le Monde and Washington Post, they're saying that they confirm the authenticity of the data. What's interesting with this software is that it's officially to fight terrorism and organized crime. But what these investigations have shown is that very often it's used to target opposition leaders, human rights activists and investigative journalists. And this software is very powerful. It can get into your phone. It can get the list of all your contacts. It can even access your messages, even if it's from a protected app like Signal, and it can access all your photos. And according to these investigations, Morocco has systematically used this software to target journalists who criticize the authorities, and they give the names, among others, of Omar Radi, Taoufik Bouachrin, and Hamid Al-Madawi. And what's interesting is that Morocco reportedly has not only targeted Moroccan journalists, but also foreign journalists. One of them is the French journalist Edoui Plenel, who's quite famous in France, and he had denounced police brutality in Morocco. And he has announced this Monday that he is filing a lawsuit against Morocco.
So Morocco seems to be a particularly worrying case, but also Togo and Rwanda have come up as 2 countries that have been allegedly using this software. What do we know about the allegations against them, and against whom perhaps they used PEGASUS?
So in the case of Togo, it's 3 journalists, and their names are Ferdinand Ayite, Luc Ebaki, and Carlos Ketuhu. And actually last year there were already some other revelations saying that Togo had been listening to opposition leaders and religious leaders, and what they had in common is that they were criticizing the Nyasingbe family, who's been in power for more than 50 years now. And another point that's interesting is that this software, for it to be exported out of Israel, it has to get the green light from the Israeli Defense Ministry. And we know that Togo is a historical ally of Israel. For example, in 2017, it was the only African nation to support the idea that Jerusalem was the capital of Israel. Another famous ally of Israel in Africa is Rwanda. They deny using the software, but what the investigations are reporting is that they used it, among others, to listen to the daughter of Paul Rusesabagina. She lives in Belgium. We've spoken a lot about Rusesabagina on this program. He's the man who inspired the film Hotel Rwanda, but now he's accused of terrorism. And tonight, I think many human rights activists are worried about the case of Rwanda, because Rwanda's been accused many times of killing opposition figures in exile. The most famous case is Patrick Karegeya in South Africa in 2014. He was assassinated in his hotel room. The Rwandan government didn't claim responsibility for that assassination, but a few days later, Paul Kagame, the president, said treason has a price. And so tonight, many human rights activists are worried about the potential use of Rwanda if it does have this spyware.
Nicholas Germain there for us. Now, Ethiopia says it's hit a second-year target for the filling of a controversial hydroelectric dam in the Nile. The milestone has come earlier than the August prediction, meaning that the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam now has enough water in it to begin producing electricity. The government says the acceleration is because of heavy rains. Now, the project sparked a regional dispute when it first began in 2011. Egypt and Sudan fear that the dam will threaten their access to the Nile's waters. They've demanded that filling stop until a deal is reached, but Ethiopia says that the waters will rise naturally with rainfall and cannot be stopped. And staying with Ethiopia, its 8 months of conflict in the north have spilled over from the region of Tigray into neighbouring Afar. Its officials say that Tigrayan fighters who were originally pit against federal troops and their allies crossed over into Afar over the weekend. Despite the announcement of a unilateral ceasefire by the government at the end of last month, the military is now reportedly due to join the combat against Tigrayan forces. Maria Gerth-Nicolescu has more.
The conflict in Tigray has spread just beyond the regional border over the weekend as forces of the TPLF, or the Tigray People's Liberation Front, have crossed into neighboring Afar region and clashed with Afar special forces. The spokesperson of the TPLF said that they had no territorial claims in the region but were repelling enemy forces, including, he said, special forces from the Oromia region. Following continued fighting in Tigray, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed had deployed several regional special forces to Tigray, including to western and southern Tigray, in order to counter TPLF forces. The Ethiopian army is also allegedly on its way to Afar in order to provide military support on that front. Currently, the road from Afar to Tigray is the only way to channel aid into the region, but on Sunday, a convoy of 9 trucks from the WFP, the World Food Programme, was attacked on that same road. At the end of June, the Ethiopian government had declared a unilateral ceasefire in Tigray, but the TPLF said it will continue fighting until all forces, including special forces and militias from the Amhara region, have left the Tigray region.
Maria Gerth-Nicolescu there for us. That is, though, where we'll have to leave it for now for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.